Hey everyone! Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're diving into a story about family, betrayal, and a whole lot of perfume. You see, I have a bit of a thing for fragrances. It all started back when I was a teenager, working my first job slinging burritos. Every paycheck, I'd set aside a little something to fuel my growing obsession. Back then, it was all about those sweet, sugary scents. Remember those? But as I got older, my tastes matured, and so did my collection. I started exploring different fragrance families, floral, oriental, woody, you name it. I became fascinated by the way scents could evoke memories, transport you to different places, and even influence your mood. My collection became my pride and joy, a testament to my love for the art of perfumery. Each bottle held a story, a memory, a moment in time. I've always been generous with my collection. Friends and family know they can always count on me for a spritz or two of their favorites. I love giving perfume as gifts, carefully selecting scents that I think would suit the recipient's personality. And I'm always happy to share samples, especially with those who are new to the world of fragrance. It's like opening a door to a whole new sensory experience, and I love seeing their reactions when they find a scent that speaks to them. For me, it's never been about hoarding my perfumes. It's about sharing the joy they bring me with the people I care about. It's about creating a connection through scent, a shared experience that goes beyond words. And for the most part, people have always respected my collection and my generosity. They understand the sentimental value it holds for me. Of course, there have been a few instances where people have taken advantage of my kindness, like the time a friend borrowed a bottle and returned it half empty, claiming she had no idea how that happened. Or the time my sister accidentally knocked over a tray of samples, shattering several precious vials. These incidents were frustrating, sure, but I never made a big deal out of them. Accidents happen, right? But what happened with my niece? Well, that's a whole different story. One that left me feeling not just angry, but deeply betrayed. It made me question whether I could trust anyone with something so precious to me. It made me wonder if my generosity had been misplaced all along. Over the years, my collection grew steadily. I'd like to think I've curated quite the impressive array of scents. From designer classics to niche masterpieces, I've got a little bit of everything. And yes, I actually use them. I believe perfumes are meant to be enjoyed, not just admired from afar. Each morning, I carefully select a fragrance to match my mood and outfit. It's become a ritual, a way to start my day on a positive note. And throughout the day, I often find myself reaching for my perfume collection, indulging in a quick spritz to refresh my senses, or simply because a particular scent catches my fancy. My niece, being a teenager, has always been fascinated by my perfume collection. I'd catch her sneaking glances at it whenever she visited, her eyes wide with curiosity. She'd ask me questions about the different scents, wanting to know the stories behind each bottle. And like any proud aunt, I was happy to indulge her. I'd let her sample a few of the less expensive ones, watching as she'd excitedly inhale the aromas, her face lighting up with delight. Little did I know, those innocent gestures of curiosity would soon morph into something far more sinister. Something that would test the very bonds of our family and leave me questioning my own judgment. It all started innocently enough, with my niece offering to walk my dog. She'd been doing it more and more lately, always eager to lend a helping hand. But I soon discovered that her helpfulness had an ulterior motive, one that revolved around my precious perfume collection. My niece, let's call her Ashley, had always been a sweet girl, a little mischievous, sure, but nothing out of the ordinary for a teenager. So, when she started offering to walk my dog, Sparky, more frequently, I didn't think much of it. Sparky adored her, and I appreciated the help. It seemed like a win-win situation. Plus, it gave me a chance to catch up on some work or simply relax without worrying about my furry companion getting bored. Ashley would swing by my place after school, leash in hand, her face beaming with enthusiasm. "Ready for our walk, Sparky?" she'd chirp, her voice full of fake cheerfulness. Sparky would wag his tail excitedly, eager to get out and explore the neighborhood. I'd wave them off, none the wiser, completely oblivious to the scheme unfolding behind my back. Little did I know, those dog walks were nothing but a clever ruse, a way for Ashley to gain access to my home, and more specifically, my perfume collection. While Sparky patiently waited by the door, tail wagging innocently, Ashley would sneak off to my bedroom, her eyes scanning my vanity table like a hawk eyeing its prey. She'd carefully select her targets, her fingers hovering over the bottles, deciding which ones to pilfer that day. With a deviousness I never would have expected from my own niece, Ashley had transformed my generosity into her own personal get-rich-quick scheme. She saw my perfume collection not as a treasured passion, but as a cash cow, a way to finance her teenage desires. And the worst part, she thought she could get away with it. Like most teenagers, Ashley lived and breathed social media. Her Instagram was a carefully curated highlight reel of her life. Selfies with friends, trendy outfits, and of course, the occasional snapshot of her perfect life. She even had a separate private account where she shared more candid moments with a select group of close friends. Or so she thought. One evening, as I was scrolling through my own Instagram feed, I stumbled upon a familiar sight, a photo of Ashley's hand holding a small atomizer bottle filled with a pink, glittery liquid. The caption read, "Selling decants of my aunt's amazing perfume collection. DM for prices." My heart sank. A wave of nausea washed over me. I couldn't believe my eyes. Driven by a mixture of curiosity and dread, I clicked on Ashley's profile and navigated to her private account. It turned out that her definition of private was a little loose, as I was able to view her stories without any issues. And there it was, for the entire world to see, a digital trail of her deceit. Story after story showcased Ashley's illicit side hustle. She'd post photos and videos of herself decanting my perfumes, carefully measuring out each milliliter, her movements practiced and efficient. She even had the audacity to offer discounts for multiple purchases and free shipping for orders over a certain amount. It was like watching a masterclass in teenage entrepreneurship, fueled by stolen goods and a blatant disregard for my trust. As I scrolled through Ashley's Instagram stories, my anger grew with each passing post. Not only had she stolen from me, but she had also profited from it, shamelessly peddling my beloved perfumes to her friends and followers like cheap knockoffs. It felt like a violation, a betrayal of the trust I had placed in her. I painstakingly went through each story, my blood pressure rising with every swipe. I tallied up the estimated cost of the perfumes Ashley had stolen based on the size of the decants and the prices she was charging. The numbers added up quickly, reaching a staggering amount that made my head spin. This wasn't just a few samples here and there. This was grand larceny, a calculated heist orchestrated by someone I thought I knew. To make matters worse, Ashley hadn't limited herself to just the mainstream, easily replaceable perfumes. No, she had to go for the good stuff, the rare and expensive bottles that I had painstakingly collected over the years. My heart ached as I saw the name Baccarat Rouge 540 scrawled across one of her Instagram stories, the price listed next to it a mere fraction of its actual value. That bottle alone was worth more than most of the clothes in her closet. The realization that my own niece had so brazenly exploited my kindness sent a shiver down my spine. It was a cold, hard reminder that trust, once broken, is not easily repaired. And in that moment, I knew I couldn't let this slide. I had to confront Ashley and her parents, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. Armed with screenshots, price estimates, and a heart full of righteous indignation, I marched over to my sister's house, ready to unleash the full force of my fury. My brother-in-law answered the door, his face etched with confusion as I brushed past him, my expression a mask of barely contained rage. "Where is she?" I growled, my voice trembling with a potent mixture of anger and disappointment. Ashley was lounging on the couch, scrolling through her phone, completely oblivious to the storm about to hit. She looked up, her face morphing from nonchalance to surprise as she registered my expression. "Hey, Aunt, your name," she mumbled, her voice tinged with a hint of nervousness. "What's up?" I slammed the stack of printed screenshots onto the coffee table in front of her, the sound echoing through the room. "Explain this," I demanded, my voice shaking with suppressed fury. Ashley's eyes darted to the papers, her face draining of color as she realized the game was up. Her carefully constructed facade of innocence crumbled before my eyes, replaced by a look of sheer panic. I can explain," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. But before she could utter another word, my sister emerged from the kitchen, drawn by the commotion. "What's going on here?" she asked, her voice laced with annoyance. I took a deep breath, ready to unleash the full weight of my niece's betrayal upon her. This was going to be a long, uncomfortable conversation. The air in the room crackled with tension as I recounted Ashley's deception to my sister. Her initial annoyance quickly morphed into disbelief, then anger, as the gravity of the situation sunk in. She kept glancing from me to Ashley, her face a mixture of confusion and hurt. "Ashley, is this true?" she finally asked, her voice trembling with a mother's worst fear. Ashley, her face pale and her eyes downcast, could only manage a small, barely audible nod. I'm sorry," she mumbled, her voice thick with shame. The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of her betrayal. Even in her remorse, I could sense a flicker of defiance, a refusal to fully accept the consequences of her actions. "Sorry isn't going to cut it this time, Ashley," I said, my voice firm but measured. I had given her the chance to explain herself, but her weak apology only fueled my anger. "You stole from me. You lied to me. You betrayed my trust." Each word felt like a punch to the gut, both to Ashley and to my sister, who flinched visibly with each accusation. The room fell silent for a moment, the only sound the ticking of the clock on the wall, a constant reminder of the precious time Ashley had wasted on her deceitful scheme. My sister, torn between her role as a mother and her loyalty to her family, seemed frozen in place, unable or unwilling to intervene. My brother-in-law, ever the peacemaker, cleared his throat, attempting to inject some calm into the volatile atmosphere. Now, let's not overreact," he said, his voice soothing but firm. "Ashley made a mistake, but she's young. She'll learn from this." His words, though well-intentioned, only served to ignite my simmering rage. "A mistake?" I scoffed, my voice dripping with disbelief. "Stealing hundreds of dollars worth of perfume is not a mistake. It's a calculated act of deceit." I turned to Ashley, my gaze unwavering. "You think those perfumes just magically appeared on my vanity? I worked my ass off for every single bottle." I launched into a passionate tirade about the importance of hard work, the value of a dollar earned, the satisfaction of building something with your own two hands. I told them about my first job, slinging burritos for minimum wage, saving every penny to buy my first real perfume. I wanted Ashley to understand that my collection wasn't just a materialistic indulgence. It was a symbol of my journey, my struggles, my triumphs. "You think it's okay to just waltz in here and take whatever you want without a care in the world?" I asked, my voice thick with indignation. "You think your aunt's hard work means nothing?" My words hung in the air, a stark contrast to the silence that followed. My sister, finally breaking free from her stunned silence, stepped forward, her expression hardened with a mother's fierce protectiveness. "Okay, that's enough," she said, her voice sharp and edged with warning. "Ashley knows she messed up. We'll handle this as a family." Her words, though meant to be reassuring, felt like a dismissal, an attempt to sweep the situation under the rug. I could see the wheels turning in her head, calculating the least painful way to make this go away, to restore the fragile peace that had been shattered by her daughter's actions. "Handle it how?" I asked, my voice laced with skepticism. "By letting her off with a slap on the wrist? By pretending this never happened?" I could feel my anger rising again, fueled by the sense that my sister wasn't taking this seriously enough. "She's a child!" my sister exclaimed, her voice rising in frustration. "Kids make mistakes. Don't you remember what it was like to be a teenager?" Her words stung, not because they were untrue, but because they felt like a betrayal. Was she seriously comparing my teenage indiscretions with her daughter's calculated thievery? Did she honestly believe that a few misplaced hormones justified grand larceny? "This isn't about being a teenager, sister's name," I said, my voice shaking with a mixture of anger and disappointment. "This is about respect, about honesty, about understanding the consequences of your actions." I turned back to Ashley, who sat huddled on the couch, her face buried in her hands. "Ashley, I loved having you over," I said, my voice softening slightly. "I enjoyed our conversations, our walks with Sparky. I thought we had a special bond." I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. "But you threw it all away. You took advantage of my kindness, my trust, and that's not something I can easily forgive." I could see the tears welling up in Ashley's eyes, But I couldn't bring myself to feel sorry for her. She had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. Sometimes the toughest lessons are the ones we learn the hard way. "I'm not asking for your forgiveness, your name," Ashley mumbled, her voice muffled by her hands. "I know I messed up. I'll pay you back for everything." Her words, though laced with remorse, did little to soothe the sting of betrayal. The fact that she saw this as a mere financial transaction, a debt to be settled, only deepened the chasm that had opened up between us. "It's not just about the money, Ashley," I said, my voice weary but firm. "You stole from me, you violated my trust, and that has consequences." I turned back to my sister, my gaze unwavering. "I expect to be reimbursed for every single bottle Ashley took," I said, my voice leaving no room for negotiation. "And until that debt is paid in full, she is not welcome in my home." My words hung in the air, heavy with finality. I could see the anger flaring in my sister's eyes, but even she knew she couldn't argue with the cold, hard truth. Ashley had messed up, and now it was time for her to face the music. The drive home was a blur of conflicting emotions: anger, sadness, disappointment, a strange sense of emptiness. I had stood my ground, demanded justice for the violation I had suffered, but it had come at a cost. The once unbreakable bond I had shared with my niece now lay shattered, a casualty of her own making. That night, I tossed and turned, the events of the day replaying in my mind like a broken record. My sister's words echoed in my ears. "She's a child. Kids make mistakes." Was I being too harsh? Was I wrong to demand repayment, to hold my niece financially responsible for her actions? A part of me wrestled with guilt. Had I become the unreasonable adult who couldn't see past a teenage indiscretion? But then I would recall the calculated nature of Ashley's scheme, the audacity of her actions. No, I told myself firmly, I was not overreacting. Ashley had crossed a line, and there had to be consequences. As the days turned into nights, I found myself grappling with a nagging question. Was this a generational thing? Was my insistence on repayment a relic of a bygone era? My friends offered varying perspectives. Some applauded my stance, commending me for setting a firm example for Ashley. Others questioned my methods, suggesting that my approach was too rigid, too focused on punishment rather than rehabilitation. This was about a clash of values, a fundamental difference in how we viewed the world. One evening, as I was browsing through my perfume collection, a wave of sadness washed over me. The joy I had once derived from this hobby had been tainted, replaced by a dull ache of betrayal. I picked up a bottle of Baccarat Rouge 540, the scent that Ashley had so brazenly decanted and sold. Was it even possible to forgive Ashley without diminishing the gravity of her actions? Forgiveness, true forgiveness, was a process, a journey that would require time, patience, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable emotions. It was not about condoning Ashley's behavior, but about releasing myself from the grip of anger and resentment. But forgiveness did not equate to forgetting. The road to reconciliation, I knew, would be long and arduous. It would require open and honest communication, a willingness to listen without judgment, and a shared commitment to rebuilding the trust that had been shattered. I had made it clear to Ashley and her parents that I expected to be reimbursed for the stolen perfumes. It wasn't about the money itself, but about the principle of the matter. I wanted her to understand that actions have consequences. But financial restitution was only the first step. The real work, the healing, would come from a place of understanding. Perhaps in time we could rebuild the bond we once shared. But one thing was certain. I was committed to trying. The immediate aftermath of the confrontation was a deafening silence. My sister, usually a constant chatterbox, barely spoke to me. Gone were our daily phone calls, our shared jokes, our casual gossip sessions. In their place was a wall of icy politeness. Even my brother-in-law seemed to tread carefully around me. It was as if my entire family had entered a silent pact against the outsider who had disrupted their peace. The silence was deafening, a constant reminder of the rift that had opened up between us. It was the silence of a family divided, unsure of how to bridge the chasm that had formed. Was it too much to ask for a little empathy, a recognition that I, too, had been wronged? The ripple effects of Ashley's actions extended far beyond our immediate family circle. Whispers of the incident spread like wildfire through our extended family. Aunts and uncles, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years, suddenly emerged, eager to offer their unsolicited opinions. Some sided with me, their voices filled with righteous indignation. Others questioned my handling of the situation, their words laced with thinly veiled disapproval. "Maybe you should have just let it go," one aunt suggested. "Family is more important than money, you know." Their words, though well-intentioned, stung. It was as if my love for my perfume collection somehow made me less deserving of their sympathy. I found myself caught in a no-win situation, a battleground between a mother's fierce love for her child and a sister's unwavering loyalty. My sister, blinded by her maternal instincts, seemed incapable of seeing the situation from my perspective. To her, I was the villain, the heartless aunt who had dared to hold her daughter accountable. But loyalty, I also knew, was a two-way street. Where was my sister's loyalty to me, her sister, the one who had always been there for her? As the weeks turned into months, the sharp edges of anger and resentment gradually softened. The silence between my sister and me persisted, but it no longer felt as deafening. It had become a space for reflection, for introspection, for a reevaluation of our priorities. I began to see the situation from a different perspective. I realized that my sister's reaction, however misguided, stemmed from a place of love. She had chosen her daughter over me, yes, but wasn't that, in a way, understandable? And Ashley? She was young, impulsive, still learning the hard lessons that life had to teach. Her actions, though hurtful, were not necessarily indicative of her character. Forgiveness wasn't a single act, a flick of a switch that erased the past. It was a process, a journey of letting go, of releasing the anger and resentment that held me captive. Looking back, the whole ordeal feels like a fever dream, a potent blend of emotions that threaten to consume me. Time, however, has a way of shifting perspectives, of softening the sharp edges of past hurts. The silence between my sister and me gradually thawed, replaced by tentative phone calls, cautious text messages, and eventually a face-to-face meeting filled with more tears than words. We didn't pretend that nothing had happened. The memory of Ashley's betrayal still lingered, but the air no longer crackled with tension. My sister, to her credit, never explicitly apologized for taking her daughter's side, but in the way she held my gaze, I sensed a tacit acknowledgement of the pain she had caused. Ashley, in the meantime, had seemingly moved on, her teenage indiscretions fading into the background noise of her life. She had, as promised, paid me back for the stolen perfumes. I had accepted the money, not because I needed it, but because it represented a tangible acknowledgement of her wrongdoing. But more importantly, I had made it clear that my forgiveness, my trust, had to be earned, not assumed. My generosity, once boundless, now flowed with a newfound awareness of boundaries. This experience had forced me to reevaluate my priorities, to set healthy boundaries, and to recognize that self-care wasn't selfish, it was essential. The scent of betrayal, like a lingering fragrance, has a way of clinging to the fabric of relationships. It can taint even the sweetest memories, casting a shadow over shared laughter and whispered secrets. But just as a complex perfume evolves over time, so too can relationships weather the storms of betrayal and emerge stronger. My relationship with my sister, though forever changed, has found a new equilibrium. We still talk, still laugh, still share the unspoken language of shared history. And Ashley? We have reached a place of cautious civility, a truce born of necessity rather than genuine affection. The scent of betrayal, though always present, no longer overwhelms. It has become a part of our story, a bittersweet fragrance that reminds us of the fragility of trust. the importance of forgiveness, and the enduring power of family.